were really accurate, and then many of the comments and questions you guys had were accurate. There's not really anything that's worth discussing. Offensively, we played obviously pretty good. Special teams wise, we missed a field goal. We made a field goal. Coverage units were good. Made a terrible decision on a punt return. Defensively, held up pretty good. Minimized big plays. So it was a good game to open. Guys played well. I thought the energy level was high. I thought the crowd was fantastic. The new paddle people around the west side there, I thought was awesome. But we got a lot of work ahead of us. Certainly don't want to cancel practice today. But this is a good team that we're playing. I know that the score was a little lopsided with Ole Miss, but athletically they're as good as half the teams in this league, in my opinion, arguably. Last year beat Mississippi State. Last year beat San Diego State. And then probably lost some games that they felt like they should have won. So got to travel on the road, take our guys, load them up, head down there early on Thursday, and get ready to roll on Friday night.
Questions for Coach?
All right, good seeing you.
Obviously, not a lot of known about South Alabama. What have you seen on film from them yet, or have you gotten into them yet?
Oh yeah, I've watched some of it. They they had a returning quarterback from last year that was injured, and they have another guy playing now. They've got a couple guys on defense that in my opinion, just watching them, I hadn't watched in depth through the middle of the season last year. Probably good enough to play at the next level, be in camps. They have team speed, it's like every other game, as you can tell if you just look at the scores from last week. It's all about preparation. I know fans and media at times may get tired of hearing that, but that's the way it is. You got to keep focused, and at any time, if you let your guard down, you're susceptible to not playing very well. And so Friday night, we need to play the very best we can and continue to get better each week.
Mike, you've seen the squad since the game, and since they've watched tape and reviewed it. Do you get the feeling this is a group that is hungry to get better? Say maybe a few snags in the offensive line in the first half, and seeing some of their mistakes, that they're aggressive about turning those around?
I'm confident that we have really good leadership, and there's enough, for lack of a better term, peer pressure to want to perform at a high level. These guys, I think, care about each other, and I like their team chemistry early in the season.
Had a powerful running attack in that game against Tulsa. Just how important is it to have a very balanced offense and have that complement Rudolph's?
We're getting back on track for balance, and you guys know, for me, for a long time, balance is very important. And we're developing a little bit of depth at the O-line position. We still have a year or two to get back to where we needed to be, but we got good running back play. Obviously, Hill was able to make guys miss in space, which is important. Some young guys that were getting a few reps there. I like where they're at this time. The balance is going to be important. We're not going to be able to just come out and throw for 500 yards and rush for 75 yards and win games. We're going to have balance for a variety of reasons. But, yes, I thought for the first game, our running game worked out pretty well.
We talked in August about Justice putting on weight, becoming a better blocker and things like that. But do you also think he's improved in making guys miss, and he seems to be a little bit shiftier?
He was in that game. I think that only time will tell as we move on through the next month. The guys that we're playing Friday night are pretty athletic. And so as we move forward, we'll find out. But I would agree with the statement that you made.
I heard
that's a question, I should say, not a statement.
I heard you asked on the conference call a few minutes ago about the setup on this game, and it's unusual for a Power 5 to go like to Mobile and play South Alabama. Forget the politics of it. You've done it before, same state, Troy. What are the things that are built now into this program that help you go down into that situation and deal with it better than you did when you went to Troy?
Oh, I think we're a better team. That was really early in my career. How we got to this point, I'm not sure. But, you go play on the road and you play out there, make any difference. The field's still 52.5 and 100, like we always say. But, in answering your question, I think our organization, our program is more mature now than it was at that time. But I will say you're still vulnerable at all times. It's never as comforting to play on the road as it is at home. Just like shooting a basketball in your own gymnasium. It just feels different when you shoot one in there than it does when you're on the road. So, but our players understand that. We've had those discussions. We're holding them responsible for preparation and going down and playing like we were playing at home.
Mike, you talked a little bit about J.D. King the other night, his toughness, his ability to take care of the ball. Were those the things that separated him in that battle for the backup job?
A young player at any position, particularly at the running back spot, being physical enough is always a concern. You're going to take a considerable number and more physical tackling than you would at the high school level. Up to this point, he's taken care of the ball. That's important for us. Turnovers are always big for everybody. And his mental approach has been excellent for his age. He reminds me a lot of Joe Randall and his approach to the game. Sometimes you can have a very, very talented player that gets awed by the level you're at such an early stage in your career. At this point, I don't think it's really affected him.
What did you take away from the performance of those young cornerbacks this past weekend?
Well, they limited big plays, which is important. We've got a lot of work ahead of us in that area. And as I said in the summer, the majority of that only takes place in experience. You're out there, you're on the field, you make mistakes, you correct it, you see it, you work each week. I thought the transition with Ramon at safety worked pretty good. I thought his eyes were on his guys better than it ever has been in his career. So after one game, it looks to be a promising move. Those guys have some ability in the future. You just want it to happen a lot faster than what maybe it's capable of with the learning curve at this level.
I think Mason's gone 150 passes or so now since his last interception, and obviously he's not, dinking, dunking. A lot of those are deep shots. What do you think it is about him that he's able to kind of make those risky throws and hasn't turned the ball over very often?
Oh, I think he's become a student of the game. I think he's throwing to really good players. A combination of a few of those things would contribute to that. He's got a pretty good feel most of the time what's going on due to experience. His circumstances are the opposite of the corners. He's got a lot of time out there, and so he's had a pretty good grasp of what we're doing, and he's throwing to good players.
Is there any one thing, Mike, that's a bigger concern after one game for you than anything else?
Well, I'm not very happy with turning the ball over. I want Mason to play in his world, stay in his box, and he got out of his box in what happened Thursday night. That's not the world he lives in. I'm not pleased with the way McCleskey handled the ball on the punt return. He made about 3 bad decisions within a span of about 8 seconds. Those type of plays concern me. If we play in a game and somebody beats us, that's the way the game goes. But I'm not interested in beating ourselves. I don't want to make crucial mistakes and things like that. And in order for us to be successful, we have to be a smart, disciplined football team, and we lost our little touch of reality on those 2 plays.
What are those conversations like with Mason when you tell him you want him to stay in his world, and does he respond with he sees the opportunity to go and he does, or how does that check and balance work out for you guys?
He's been very good. I think this is a good prep for him from the standpoint of if he decides to play this game for another 6 or 8 or 10 years, if he's fortunate enough to, then those guys are going to tell him what to do, more so than maybe we do. And he's been terrific. And I think he understands that with Mike and then myself, we have a lot of experience in making the same mistakes that we're trying to get him to not make. And I think he says, okay, I'll buy into that. And truthfully with him, most guys that play at this level want to do very well for their team, but those same guys also want to play this game for a long time. And in order for him to play this game for a long time, he has to play within his box. And he's built for the next level, maybe even a little bit more so than college. And that wouldn't be part of the next level, the one mistake he made the other night. Don't get me wrong, he played a good game. He was 20-24 and had a couple drops. But being a smart team and trying to minimize crucial mistakes are very important to our success.
Similar to the cornerbacks on the offensive side, the Cowboy backs, no experience there going in. How did they grade out?
Abbott played pretty well. We didn't get Sione a lot of work. Obviously, he's a little bit further behind. He didn't show up here till August. So we're pleased with what Abbott brought to the table. Those guys are just like the corners in that we need to get them as much quality work as possible, and they should be much better 6 weeks from now than they are today.
You use those guys in a lot more plays than you didn't use them. Was that important to you early on in the season, trying to get them into the flow of things as far as like a pattern of their usage?
We needed to get them quality work so they could see themselves make mistakes and correct it at the pace the game's played. We try to simulate as much as possible, but it's really difficult to simulate the pace and your breathing and anxiety and emotions and such that happen in a game.
You really liked during the preseason the speed of your defense. Did you see that translate to the field?
Yeah, I thought they ran very well side to side. One thing that we did do is we stopped the run, and I think there's times that they had a chance to get a few more yards and somebody would run them down from behind or cut through or underneath a block. That test will be put more to the test over the next month, and we'll find out kind of where we're at. But I would say that my prediction there after the first game was true.
Does that have a chance to be maybe one of the key strengths of this defense?
You know, speed's important in this league. More teams are going to spreading you out on the field, so you got to be able to get from one spot to the next really fast. And then all while you got to get a skilled kid down in space. So I think that our ability to run will hopefully help us throughout the duration of the season.
Did you follow the Big 12 results over the weekend? When you see, 3 Big 12 teams lose their season opener, is it disappointing? Since I know you kind of say you always pull for those teams when you're not playing.
Yeah, you always want every Big 12 team to win. I see scores. I didn't really see any games. I saw a little bit of late night stuff I watched Mike Leach just to see what he had going on. But I didn't see many other games. We worked and had our practices and then dove hunted till dark. So that pretty much wrapped it up for me.
Do you encourage your players to watch other Big 12 teams, or do you want them focused on the team that you're playing that week?
Oh, I think it's positive for them to watch every game possible. You learn a lot from watching games. See things that other people do, ideas, the way they handle themselves, mistakes they make. I think it's positive, in my opinion, to watch other people play and come up with different ideas and things that could help us and or see things that you want to stay away from that could potentially hurt your team.
You didn't say the games, Mike. What did you think when you saw the scores? Texas, Baylor.
I don't know. Early in the year, I don't know anymore. It's hard to predict anything. I think that kind of goes back to what I've said for years and years now. There's probably about 5 teams in the country athletically on any given year that can dominate and win a game defensively, where they can just shut you down. They could potentially have enough guys on their roster that are going to play in the NFL that can change a game. And then I think there's about 30 other teams that are all about the same, and no matter where you play or how you play or if you turn it over, you could win or lose. And I think that the results and what you see over the weekend, without watching the games in detail, is probably a pretty good indication of what that means. That's just kind of what happens.
Maryland and Liberty probably fall beyond that 30, though.
Oh, I don't know. I've heard people talk about the Maryland game. I was told they had terrific quarterback play. you get good quarterback play, you have a chance to win at any time. And then there was a lot of special teams involved in that game, right? Several blocked PATs and punts or whatever it may. So you throw in turnovers, you throw in special teams blunders, whoever they are for or against. You throw quarterback play in, and those are the results you come up with. The Baylor Liberty one, I didn't see one play of that. Did that score surprise me? Yes.
Before the season, you mentioned it might take a little bit for Aaron Cochran to kind of get up to speed with you guys, considering the pace in which you play. What do you think about his stamina and his performance on Thursday?
We thought he played fairly well for the first game. Our pace is a little different than what he's accustomed to. Obviously, the conditions are different in this part of the country than being in Northern California. But we thought he played fairly well. I thought his conditioning was good. It's going to be 83 degrees and it'll drop down into the low 70s during our game out there, but the humidity should be a little higher. So it'll be another test for him. But he made a few mistakes, but am I pleased with his first game being in our offense after just showing up here in the early part of June? Yes.
Mike, were you able to reach out to any of your guys who made the 53-man roster cuts?
I didn't reach out to him, but there's a system that we have in place for those guys. We've always boxed up a lot of gear from this year's team and send it out to the guys that are in the NFL. Not only the first-year guys, but also I think there's 11 or 12 guys now that we have that are on active rosters. And so we'll send that out, and I'll put a note into them. But what happens is, in most cases, those guys, they'll be the first ones to show up on their open weekend. They'll come back to games, so that's pretty cool. But I believe we had 4 new players that made active rosters this year, I think. So we're very proud of those guys.
Were you surprised at all that Houston let Wheaton go?
I mean, I guess. I think Brandon Whedon's a good football player. I think he's been in, people talk about wrong place at wrong time and luck. He's been in the wrong place at the wrong time and had bad luck about as much as anybody in the league. Yes, I'm surprised. I would think he would probably latch on somewhere else.
Will this be the week that Adrian Baker gets a little bit more playing time? He
Hope
didn't play
so.
last week at all.
Yeah. He's getting a little better. The health and his situation is clearing up a little bit, and hopefully he'll get a few reps in there, and we'll see how he comes along.
More successful, your opener or your dove hunting weekend?
Well, definitely the opener. Now, the dove hunting weekend is, you have to understand, we're fairly recreational hunters. If it's too hot or if the grass is too high, then we're probably not going to do it. And but it gives me, I was out several times, 5-6 hours with my kids. Last night I shot 25 times, didn't hit anything. And I think they shot 200 shells and we left with 9 birds. So you can tell that if we were hungry, we'd still be hungry. But, the time that the people that I hunt with are Oklahoma State people that, in the agricultural community, and it gives me a chance to be out around them. And it's just fellowship and a good time. We're definitely not gonna harm the dove population. But it's a lot of fun to be out there with the kids.
You find some time to break down Gunner's film from game 1?
Did break down Gunner's film, sure did. Oh, I thought he did fine. He like these guys here, he made some mistakes, but he found a way to make some big plays, and they won. I thought they did a good job. He's got a long ways to go, but it's fun to watch him.
When you watch it, do you watch it with him or do you watch it by yourself?
Both. I watch it by myself, and then I watch it with him until he gets mad and walks out. So that usually could be middle of the second quarter. But it's fun. It's fun for me to watch his games and grade him and such. But I don't grade him a lot on anything other than his effort and how he handles himself and his leadership ability and things, playing without the ball in his hands, things that are really important.
From a father's standpoint, how disappointing is it you're not going to watch it this week either, just like last week?
Yeah, I only get to see him play maybe 3 games, but that's just the conflict with my job and the way it is. I know some coaches that are in the situation I am. Sometimes their team travels without them and they fly private to that location. But I'm not really comfortable in doing that. I'm obligated to this group. Gunner's a big boy. He's gonna have to figure out how to do it on his own. But it's certainly a sacrifice for me. That's why I'm not as available in the summer, because you know, the opportunity for me to be with him, we don't get these days back. You know, the first and second game of his sophomore career, they're not going to get to do that again. So that's a tough part. But we have a big commitment. I have a big commitment to this team, and they're important, and I think this is the best decision.
Do you see any sophomore Midwest City Mike Gundy in your son right now? Or who is better? Who's better at that age?
Certainly me. I mean, it's really not even close. He's got a chance to, if he keeps growing, but he's not near as fundamentally sound as what I was at that point in my career. I was playing wide receiver as a sophomore. We had a quarterback that was a senior named Donnie Johnson, who was a good player, and so I couldn't make the team unless I moved to wide receiver. That was a sight. It'd be like me and you going out here and playing wide receiver today. Just image that. There you go.
Talked about Adrian Baker. Macon didn't play. You look at other guys, Chuba didn't play. Do you have a better idea as far as playing time and maybe red shirts at this point?
Chuba could still play. Adrian Baker, he's going to play. Macon, maybe not. Don't know yet. Just have to wait and see how he develops over the next month. When these guys come in on a later date, they're in a catch-up role when you have a mature team. We have a fairly mature team. Some years when we're young, those guys have to get thrown into the fire. But we have a little bit more depth right now.
Anything else, Coach?
Good?
Thanks, guys.
All right.